This is our story. This is our story. Our journey. JUTAUN. Well, I went to the valley where I heard there lives a tree. And if I can lead it. What's up, guys? So the new single "By the River" came out officially a couple weeks ago, and the response has been really good. We appreciate all the support and the love on this record. We've been getting a lot of questions and people wondering how we got the sound that we did. So we're going to give you guys a little look at the mix and what went into the record as far as that standpoint. So if you're not into the technical side of things like that, don't worry about it. Keep watching. You might see something that, sparks your interest. But for me, this is my chance to geek out a little bit, so bear with me. So first, we're going to start with what happened with one of the main elements of the record, which is that kick drum that just rolls through the song. So right here is our kick drum track, and you can see there's a bunch of automation going on this track here. And what that is there's a reverb plugin on the track that I'm using, and I'm basically automating the wet and dry signal to give it more of a spatial effect. As the song progresses in different sections, you want to kind of create space and create a vibe. So when the song is broken down to the least amount of elements, there's basically more reverb being added to the kick drum just to give it a little bit more space and sound. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So right here, you can hear kind of the transition of where that kick drum happens. So you can kind of hear how that reverb grows a little bit in between them sections. That's just to kind of fill up space a little bit more and give you more of an impact when that kick drum is hitting in those open spaces. Another thing that is important to know about the kick drum is that I'm actually using a sample. It's not actually a part of the live kick, the acoustic kit. So there's actually a layer of a bunch of different kick drums that are going on, that are rolling throughout the song, just to kind of give it more impact and keep it up front. And that's layered in with the live drum sound. I'll show you what the drums are sounding like. So you can see it's a live kit, but the kick drum is sampled, but it's kind of made to feel like it fits in with the live kit, just to give the kick that impact that a lot of the modern, contemporary or pop songs would have. And we wanted to have that vibe, but also maintain, that live feel and maintain the vintage sound that we were going for. All right, so next we're going to take a look at some of the instrumentation, not really too much, but just a little bit of it. So, of course, we have the bass track, which was recorded direct, and everything in this record was mixed in the box. So we didn't have a lot of access to a bunch of outboard gear and real expensive equipment. So we used a lot of emulations and amp simulators to kind of get that sound that we were looking for. So the bass was actually this 1979 BC Rich Eagle. It was my dad's bass, and it was pretty cool to be able to get it on one of our songs. So that was like it coming full circle. He'd been playing this bass since I was a little kid. So basically we went from that, and just to get that sound that we were looking for, I used a program called Amplitude. It was just a basic amp simulator, And then actually use some distortion on the bass to give it a little more drive and give it some of that rock vibe that the record kind of had. So I'll show you what some of the bass sounds like. So you can see it's like really gritty, dirty, but it has a lot of boominess to it. The piano, I kind of kept a mono piano sound and kept it really like dirty also. Another main element of this track is the guitar. So the acoustic guitar was something that I really wanted to stand out. So I used a lot of different techniques with compression and EQ to bring it forward, especially this front line, this line that starts the song off. That riff was so catchy that we wanted it to kind of be one of the main elements of the song, so it needed to have a lot of upfrontness and a lot of body to it, but not overcrowd the vocals and everything. So that was just mainly EQ and compression, a little bit of reverb. So we'll take a look at some of the electric guitars. Really simple. Again, we didn't have a bunch of amps and things like that to go through, so I used Amplitude again on the electric guitars. I ended up using a Fender simulator, Champion 600 amp. That worked well for this song. I wouldn't necessarily say that's like one I would use on every song, but it worked well for this one. Give you a little bit of what the electric guitar sound like. So you hear that kind of tail off thing. That's actually part of Amplitude, is the pedals and stuff that you can put on the guitar. And I really like that. There was a digital delay that I put on there that really kind of felt good with this one. Yeah, and that's pretty much it for the instrumentation. All right, so let's take a look at some of the vocals. I think the vocals are one of the main things that give it that retro kind of vibe, but still sound modern at the same time. And I think it has to do a lot with our approach to the vocals, which was, especially with the backgrounds, we wanted to basically record them in an acoustic space so that a lot of the reverb and the spatial element that you're hearing is actually captured in the recording and it's not added in later. So that's kind of like how they used to do it back in the day. Everybody would be in a room together just singing, and the natural vibe of that would be what you hear on the record. So I play a little bit of the background vocals, and you can see how as they grow and those O's at the end kind of come in, certain ones are placed spatially different. The lower ones are kind of more in front but panned out wide, and the higher vocal is kind of set off in the distance a little more with some delays and delay throws and things like that. So play a little bit of that. Whoa, mm-hmm. Whoa, mm-hmm. Whoa, by the river, by the river. So you hear that tail off at the end. That's giving those. That's mainly on the higher vocal, the higher harmony in that stack. So that gives them the effect of being further away from you and almost like out in a canyon somewhere. I call that the Wild Wild West effect on those vocals. But let's look at some of the leads, some of the stuff we did on the leads. So this is the leads right here. You can see there's a lot of automation on these going on because there's a lot of things that we were doing with distortion. I know, especially with vocals, distortion is frowned upon a lot, but it can be an effective thing if you know what you're doing with it. And I think with this record, we deliberately wanted distortion. We even we recorded the vocals with this microphone, which is like really lo-fi. And I got this mic from my dad. It was in his collection of stuff that I just found. It's actually a stereo dynamic mic that goes to an old Akai tape machine, the M8, and he had a couple of these laying around. So we were like, let's try it on the vocals and see, if we can get a really lo-fi kind of gritty thing. And it worked, but we also didn't want it to be too far left field, so we recorded a cleaner vocal too simultaneously and use a blending of the two in this record. So you can hear how in certain parts the distorted vocal is pushed, and in certain parts the cleaner vocal is more present. You can really hear that in this section of the song. I'll show it to you here. I know I made mistakes, but I'm gonna be okay. Finally on my way to a better place. So that's basically just the distorted vocal. Now I'll show you what it sounds like if I bring in the cleaner vocal with that. Gonna be okay, finally on my way to a better place. Oh, can you take me away down by the river? Hey. So you can see how with the cleaner vocal, it still has that edge and that kind of crunchiness, but there's more clarity to it. You can understand all the words, and it's not off-putting, and it doesn't sound wrong. So we were really going for that with the vocals, and I think that was one of the main things that gave the vocals the vibe and gave the song the vibe that it has. So remember, distortion isn't always bad. Distortion is actually something that causes anytime audio passes through something that's not normal. So everything you hear has distortion on it. All right, so one of the other things I want to show you about the mix is just one of my approaches to kind of finalizing everything and bringing everything together. Since we're not on a huge console and we can't get, the old Neve sound or the SSL sound, I kind of stole a little trick from a guy that I watch called Dave Pensado. He's got a show called Pensado's Place, and they actually school you on a lot. So go check that out if you've never seen it before. And I basically group all of my different elements of my track into different sections. So there's a vocal chain, a background vocal chain, drums, and then all the rest of the music. And then I even group all the effects so that you can kind of process those individually, and then you can use automation to push certain things and just keep the song sound like it's growing and moving. And throwing a little bit of EQ and compression on that works too. But one of the things I like to do, especially for this record, which really gave it even more of a analog sound, was throwing a tape emulator on those buses. It's at 15 IPS, and it just kind of took all of those different things, the drums and the guitars, and kind of just gave it that analog sound that you can lose when you're working with digital sometimes, when you're working in the box. And then after that, I take all of that to a sum stereo mix, which goes through an SSL compressor. Usually, sometimes I'll use an API 2500, but I like the SSL compressor a lot because it doesn't destroy the mix, and I'm only touching it really lightly. And then something else I always go to is Ozone by Isotope. I go to Ozone. So Ozone is like my go-to on my stereo bus. And then, just for listening purposes, I'll throw an L2 on there or to catch any peaks like that. But I usually, when I send it off to mastering, I don't put the L2 on. I'll take that off and send it to my mastering guy, Peter Humphreys over at Masterworks. He's a great guy. And matter of fact, when he heard this record, he said, "Man, you guys really went for that sound," and he heard it right away. So that's just a testament to what you can do when you're really working in the box and you're listening and using your ears. Don't get caught up in what you're supposed to do or what things are supposed to sound like. Just listen and use your best judgment as far as your ears go, and you can get any results you want. I mean, there's no rules to this. It's all about what you want to do. So that's the mix for By the River. If you haven't heard the record yet, go download it. It's available on iTunes, available anywhere you can get music. If you have trouble finding it, go to our social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's all in the description. Our website, JUTAUN.com, is also in the description. Click on that. I think the link to get the song is also in the description. So, appreciate you guys sticking with us and watching and letting me geek out for a little bit. And stay tuned for the next episode next week. See you later.